Welcome. My name is Sherry Samerski. I'm the Associate Executive Director. Glad to have you all here today. Yes. So this town hall, we will be meeting the mission ops team, talk to you a little bit about a mission moment. That's why we all do what we do here. We'll give you the upcoming town hall schedule. Troy Troxel, our volunteer manager, will recognize some people for their first mission or their number of drives they've made. And then the program will be with Trevor Moody and Ricardo Lagos. I want to fly missions, and I think that's why many of you are here, how we can get you started on your first mission, and we'll take your questions. So this is the mission ops team for those of you that have already flown missions or are about to fly missions. This is the group of individuals that you work with. You'll see here Natalie Peters, she's our mission coordinator, along with Maddie Eichten and Julia Brecker. Alejandro Ramirez is the operations manager, so he kind of runs this crew along with myself. Troy Troxel, as I mentioned, is our volunteer manager. He handles all of our pilots, Earth Angels, everything to do with our volunteers, and David Nathan is a volunteer coordinator, and he works directly with Troy. Our upcoming town halls. The next one is Tuesday, November 14th, and it will be Earth Angel FAQs. So our terrific Washington Earth Angel Marlene Hutchison will discuss Earth Angel experience and how you might get others involved in helping do Earth Angel legs. And a reminder, please put it in a chat or email us. We're always looking for upcoming town hall meeting topics. Mission moment, why do we do what we do? This was a social media post recently from pilot David Manuel, who flew his first mission. Just going to read it quickly to you. On Friday, I had the opportunity to serve as command pilot on my first ever humanitarian mission. Dallas from Clear Lake, California, had a life-saving procedure done in Seattle, and it was made possible in large part by other pilots who got her to where she needed to be for treatment. To use one's interests, gifts, and blessings to serve others brings unspeakable joy. Without a doubt, this opportunity to serve was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. In Clear Lake, before Chris and I departed for our flight back home, Dallas hugged and thanked us for being a part of all that was needed to give her a new lease on life. Thank you, Dallas. It was an honor to serve you and to help out. I think he says it pretty well there, is why, those of us that work here are here, what we get to deal with every day, and why those of you that want to be a part of this great organization. And then speaking of this great organization, on Monday, October 30th, right here at the Santa Monica Airport, Angel Flight West will be celebrating its 100,000th mission. A pretty remarkable landmark in our milestone in our long history, our 40 years of history. For any of those that are in the LA Basin or would think you'd like to come and be a part of it, you're welcome to attend. Feel free. Troy, would you drop my email address in the chat, please? If you plan to attend and haven't already said you would be here and think it would be fun to come, Troy's putting my email address in the chat, and feel free to reach out to me. With that, I want to introduce Troy Troxel, our volunteer manager.
Hi all, good to see you. See some new people as well and names that put a face to them. So thank you for all showing up. So let's go first. First mission last 30 days. Alan Jacobs out of NorCal, Baxter Ross, SoCal, Bob Stewart, Colorado wing, Randy Mills in SoCal, Grant Rodoff out of Colorado, James Riley, Arizona, John Wright, Colorado, Josiah Mayfield, Nevada, Kara Jeza, Washington, Oregon, Kevin Rainasek, Southern California, Lawrence Smith, NorCal, Marcus Fries, NorCal, Matthew Wagner, Washington, Richard May out of Oregon, Rodrigo Quintana out of Colorado, Scott Woodland, pictured here, NorCal, Stephen Lucas out of NorCal, Terrence Corrence, which I see is here out of SoCal, and Will Page out of Utah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. And then top drivers for 2023 so far, year to date. As you said, Marlene Hutchinson out of Washington with 58 missions driven, and now her total lifetime with Angel Flight West is 129 missions. Thomas Ricks out of NorCal with 22. Dennis Phelan, Arizona with 21. Lois Orphis, SoCal with 20. Jim Higginson out of Washington with 15. Costa Constantine out of Colorado with 15. Ernie Navarro, SoCal with 15. Ivu out of Hawaii with 9. And Dottie Ann McReynolds, NorCal with 9 as well. Thank you all.
Great. Now I'm going to introduce our speaker for today. Trevor Moody is a longtime Angel Flight West command pilot. He's also on our board of directors and actually just an all-around great guy. So Trevor, take it away.
Thanks, Sherry. Appreciate it. Yeah, so my name is Trevor Moody. I'm a Angel Flight West command pilot based up in Seattle, and I fly out of Renton, Romeo November Tango, for those of you who know the area. I've been flying with Angel Flight West since about 2014 and completed a little over 100 missions. So I'm really looking forward to discussing today's town hall topic of getting pilots flying their first mission. I'm going to talk about some resources available at Angel Flight West, and also introduce Ricardo, who completed his first mission just earlier this year. Ricardo and I were chatting about his first missions just recently, and I thought he had some really just terrific perspectives and advice. But before we discuss these, I think it's worth just acknowledging that getting the first mission flown is often a challenge. Angel Flight West has great training and orientation, but the idea of flying a passenger we've never met before and knowing that the passenger may be dealing with some serious medical conditions is daunting to many pilots, and it makes sense, right? You know, all of us have been there. I remember chatting with an airline captain who flies trans-Pacific routes for one of the largest US air carriers. He also flies general aviation and has his own plane. And he acknowledged to me he hadn't flown his first mission yet. And he acknowledged to me his nervousness about the first flight. So if someone like that is has some concerns, then obviously he's not the only one. But the good news is that this is common. Angel Flight's aware of it. And in almost all cases, the reality of the mission is significantly more straightforward than the concerns we may imagine. And also, Angel Flight West sees in the mission numbers that once someone does get their first couple of missions done, that they really become very enthusiastic and keep signing up for missions, but need to get over that activation energy sometimes for the first one or two. And finally, I just should emphasize that getting new pilots flying is mission critical to Angel Flight West. No one should come away from this call thinking we have plenty of pilots and it's just a nice to have someone else flying. Coming out of the pandemic, we're seeing again and again, strong growth in demand for our services. And unfortunately, every week we do see missions that go unfilled due to lack of pilots. So this is not just a nice to have. This is really, really important for what we do here. So the goal today is to share some resources available to help you get your first missions completed, and also let you hear from one pilot who started flying recently. So Jess, maybe we can have the next slide. Yeah, so some resources, and this is not there are other things as well, but I think some things that you may not know about that we should highlight here. Firstly, and this is a new thing for Angel Flight West, is that we now have a volunteer services team. So headed up by Troy, who's on the call. So the focus is on working with volunteers, pilots, not just pilots, but pilots in particular, helping them get through the orientation process, getting the first missions done. When issues come up, whether it's your first mission or your 500th mission, we've got a team there to help on that. Troy is a pilot himself, so understands what we are dealing with in our missions. So that's been a really great add, and recently added David Nathan there as well to the team. Another resource that is worth talking about is mission assistant role, and many of you will know about this. And this is basically an Angel Flight West volunteer flying along with a pilot to help out on a mission. And this is there's, I'll just be transparent that there's some really good things and some challenges about this. So the really good things are it's a great way for someone who is a pilot but hasn't flown a mission yet to just see how it works. So, it may be the best tool we have to get that exposure. The challenge is we haven't found a great way to sort of institutionalize the process, if you like, of matching that. It's, it takes enough work already to match pilots with our passengers. So what we've found is the best way that people get to fly on mission assistant flights is networking, whether it's with other pilots they know, with their wing leaders, with Angel Flight West Central, with Troy and co. So I've certainly had many conversations with new pilots who said, hey, I checked the box in aphids to do a mission assistant. I never heard from anyone. We understand that. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to fix that, but don't assume that happens today. If you want to do it, and I definitely encourage it, network, talk to other pilots, reach out to Troy and others. So just say mission assistant's great, but it does take a little bit of work. I mean, one thing I've been doing recently is when I have a spare seat and, I know the weight and balance will work. So I've only got, it's not one passenger or it's only one passenger. I've got a list of about a dozen people I know who are in my area who are looking to fly their first mission. And I'll just send a blast email out and say, hey, next Monday I've got a flight and ready to, if someone wants to come along, first come, first serve. And I think every time I've done that, I've gotten multiple responses. And just as an aside, if anyone in the Washington area, in the Seattle area, I would like to get on the little list, I'm happy to add you. Just send me a message or whatever. So anyway, that's the mission assistant role. Great, but just does take a little bit of work. Wing leaders, as you may or may not know, Angel Flight West is organized by wings, which are basically states, except for California that has Northern California wing and Southern California wing. If you don't know your wing leader in your state, you can reach out to Troy or others to find out who it is, and definitely reach out to them. I mean, just being on their radar screen, they're there to help the volunteers. That's why they're in that role. And whether it's networking for a potential mission assistant role or just getting advice on flying those first missions, definitely the wing leader is a resource for that. I think we've talked about in some, we do have a couple of regional staff in areas as well. So if it turns out there's local staff in your region, definitely reach out to them. Well, I think you'd find everyone very, very accessible. And then finally, blood missions. Excuse me. This is not available everywhere, but when it is available, it's definitely a terrific resource for doing your first flight without the extra stress, if you like, of it being a person. So in this case, it's a box of blood that is, you fly out typically to a regional where a regional blood draw is occurring, and get the boxes of blood delivered to your plane, and then you fly them back to a central location and someone picks them up there. My first couple of missions were this. Unfortunately, not every wing and region is doing these, so it's only in a few, but certainly if it's around, keep an eye out for those, and those are great ones to get started if those are available to you. So those are just some of the resources. We'll switch over to Ricardo now, and I wanted to introduce him. So Ricardo, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got introduced to Angel Flight?
Hi, Trevor. Hi, everyone. So my name is Ricardo Lagos. I fly a Piper Cherokee out of Harvey Field. That's S43, which is in Washington, in the area of Snohomish, really close to Payne Field. It's a small GA field. Flew my first mission in June, and at that time, I got my private license in 2021, and then I had my instrument in 2022, and then flew my first mission in 2023. Around when I had 350 total hours, 260 pick hours. So just after meeting the requirements, basically, I was making a beeline towards making requirements. I just fly for my own amusement, for my own benefit. I'm not trying to, I don't have any goals of, in aviation for further than, for my own benefit. But Angel Flight was on my radar of things that I really wanted to do. And You know, my own personal life, I've had experiences where I know what it's like to get a helping hand when you have some reasons from some health, emergencies or whatever. And so I thought that I could really connect with this, and this would really be something I really wanted to do. And that's how I got started.
That's great. So
yeah.
So when we were talking recently, you told me that you'd learned quite a bit through your first missions. You've done 5 or 6 now, which is great in that time frame. Can you share some lessons that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, I flew 6 missions and 1 Earth Angel mission, actually. So 6 and 1. I got 6 and 1 in my record. So I think lessons that I learned really can be. I could say that these are how to have a successful first mission is the way that I would put it, right? So these are some things that I learned that would help others have a successful first mission. Maybe things that were a little challenging on my end. If I had known this before, it might actually help me have would have really benefited my first few missions. So one of the things is that it's going to be a very different experience than flying by yourself. At the time that I did my first mission, all my flights had been with some friends, by myself mostly, flying in the Seattle area. So this was very different. Even though the training is really good, and there's a lot of talk about how different the pressures are. Until you actually do it, you don't really have a great appreciation for that. And the pressures are very different. You have passengers, more passengers maybe that you carried before, depending on what you've been flying. But there's also like a schedule, right? The mission happens at a certain time. Passengers need to get there at a certain time. So just be aware that that's going to be there. And even if you're like, yeah, I'm a great pick, I know how to make my decisions, you're going to have to figure this out for yourself and make a framework around how you make decisions. So just be aware that does happen. Give yourself plenty of buffer on all the different things that you have to make decisions on, because this is all going to come up, weight and balance, time frames, and fuel requirements and stuff like that. So just in those first few missions, it's really best if we didn't stress about that. I think my second mission was out of Redmond, Oregon, and flew a passenger that, we had a surprise, which was that they were bringing their sister. And though I still worked with the weight and balance, it's a good thing that I had left quite a bit of leeway there. Because by the time we added the second passenger, the bags, the fuel, and the high DA takeoff, 5,000 feet, which is what that day at Redmond, now I was flying outside of like really what I've flown my airplane at. So we were flying now maybe 100 pounds under gross on a Cherokee 181. So I think that like the message is here, leave yourself lots of room. Try to fly something that you've flown before. Because just flying for Angel Flight is different. It's different from your standard operating procedures. So the less changes that you make, the more enjoyable the flight will be, and the better. I think the easier the flight will be. So I said something. This is different from your standard ops. Don't take too many things. And one of the things that I found is that it took several flights to really find a groove, like what I call it, or something that really fit me, something that I really would enjoy doing over and over and over. And I flew longer flights. I flew flights over the Cascades. And then finally settled on like the most enjoyable flights for me, my airplane, my level of experience is, flights that are 1 to 1.5 hours each leg. So we're talking like, total on a Cherokee, we're talking total 250 nautical miles or less, with, 150 to 200 pounds. Those are great, and things like that. Once I started figuring that out and I started doing those missions, I'd say my level of enjoyment really increased, and just how good I felt about the mission really increased. So I would definitely recommend that think about the kind of flying you're doing now, find a mission that fits that for your first few missions, and it's going to really propel you, I think, into doing these flights.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I can relate to that, Ricardo. When we're first going through the lists on aphids of all the missions and so forth, it can be a little overwhelming and almost like a kid in a candy shop a little bit, and that there's so many missions there, and you can get tempted to sign up for ones that may be longer than either you've done before or you really want to do in your particular plane or something. So yeah, I think that's
right. there's a lot of new things, right, in all these flights. I mean, for somebody that hasn't been doing them that way, like everybody's got different experiences in their flight. But for me, for example, flying in and out of Boeing Field a lot, which is where a lot of the missions start or end. Well, that was new. I wasn't really flying into Boeing very much, right? And so that's different. Boeing is a busier airport. In the Seattle area, I realized that we have people from all over the West Coast here, but in the Seattle area, they started in Boeing Field. And that's not something I've been doing a lot. So there's already one thing that's new. And so limiting the number of new things that you take on will really help you have a successful, enjoyable mission. Otherwise, it feels like a lot of work. It's not, we're all here to do a great thing for someone else. But I think at first, in order to propel you to do well and then do more of them, it will do you best to find something that's very similar. There's flights that go all the way to Spokane, Boeing Field, Spokane, there's lots of those flights. And so I'm like, yeah, I'll take one of those. But before that, most of my flights have been shorter. And so I found myself, struggling with the length of the day, or, at the end, even though I'm supposed to feel really good about having done something good for someone, I just felt tired. And so, this is some of the things that I would say to someone that's thinking of doing their first mission is to possibly think about those things too.
Yeah. So, and this may be included in some of the things you've told us, but what's one thing that you know now that you wish you'd known when you were signing up for your first mission, or maybe more than once?
Like I think if we're just going to talk really quickly, I just realized time. Preparation, right? So, have your plan A, have your plan B, and then remember that there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come up that are going to possibly keep you from executing that plan. This is no different than the training we've done all along. When we're training as pilots. But it really comes up. My example here is, we were going into an airport just east of Spokane, and I had, I'm going to fly this approach. I'm going to do it this way. And then when we got there, the winds were variable, and I delayed too long. And before I knew it, ATC is asking me if I want to do a visual, and they took the visual. And so now this is outside of my briefing, and it just got harder. And at the end, I didn't feel really great about myself because I had a plan, and I think a lot of pilots grade themselves based on how well they executed their plan. And so, realize that this is going to happen, and, stick to your plan, and be flexible, but, think about your plan. Flying simulator, when you're flying to new airports, or you're going to do in a geography that you haven't been before, once I started doing that, then the mission became simple because I just flew into this airport, right? I flew in the simulator the day before, that sort of thing.
And then any other recommendations to command pilots who are looking to do their first Angel Flight West mission, or passengers considering something?
Yeah, take a mission assistant along. It'll help with the first mission was a passenger, and they really wanted to talk a lot, and I wanted to make them feel good, and I didn't want them to feel like I was ignoring them. But I had air traffic control in one area. I'm flying a new Angel Flight mission, and all this other stuff going on. And so if I had a mission assistant, they would have conversed with them. They would have kept them comfortable. They would have made sure everything was great instead of me having to do that plus fly the airplane. GA is unpredictable, and the Angel Flight West team understands that. So you take on missions, and then things happen. Reach out and just talk about what, maybe it's maintenance, maybe it's weather, maybe it's this and that. And they really will help to make the mission successful. I flew 6 missions, but I canceled at least 3 of them. And in each one of those cases, that mission flew, and it flew with someone else. And it was all because the team is really great at, when something happens, they pick up, they help, meet that need. And so it's not just on you.
Yeah. That's great.
And finally, I wanted to finish with, for this call, we, there was a request for a quote, right? And I've read all the quotes from everybody else that has been doing this for a while, and about how this is very meaningful and stuff like that. And I really was having a hard time connecting there. But because, this is new for me. But then I thought about this one interaction. So I flew, it's not the person in this picture, but I flew a gentleman and his wife for a cancer treatment from Orcas to Boeing Field. The flight went great. They were very thankful. We took our selfies. It was IFR. I used all the tools I've been training for. Everything went according to plan. I felt great. Dropped them off. A few weeks later, I'm at Orcas again, having breakfast by myself, and he recognized me, and they came over and they said hello. He introduced me to his wife again. They were very thankful. He introduced me to his brother, and we talked for a little bit. And then they went on their way. And it wasn't until a few days later, when we were talking about Angel Flight, that it really hit me. And, you know, when we do this for someone that we help, we become a part of their story. We become a part of their struggle or a part of their getting well. And we're an integral part of that. You know, they're going to remember you. They're just, you know, they're going to remember this, and it's going to either help them. It's going to help them either way, you know, get better or part of their struggle, and it's helped them in that moment. And that sort of connection is really honest, and that connection is really meaningful. And you know, when I think about it that way, then it really makes me grateful that I have the ability to help someone and to connect with someone that way. And you know, connection is probably one of the most important things for everyone, right? So that's what I found.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. That's really, really well said. Thanks for that, Ricardo. That's awesome. We've got another new pilot, Joe McGee, who just did his first few missions recently. He wanted to join here and give some advice, but you know, schedule didn't work out. So just a couple of photos from the first missions and just a couple of comments of things he's learned he wanted to pass on. One is juggling with work. You know, he's been able to navigate that as someone who works, you know, Monday through Friday, that he's been booking flights in advance and using vacation days here and there, and also finding opportunities on the weekend, which aren't always that common, but there are some that you can go for. Weather, and you know, what if it fogs in or weather below minimums? Patients want a nice flight too, so don't be overconfident. Angel Flight West team can help coordinate alternative travel with notice and sometimes without notice. So, you know, just I'll just add an editorial there that, yeah, as like Ricardo said, canceled missions, weather is just part of life as an Angel Flight pilot, and it will happen frequently. We always emphasize to the passengers that they need a plan B. We often have commercial options or other Angel Flight pilots who may have a different airplane that can fill it. So that's what we're doing all the time, or what the team is doing all the time is juggling options. So I know as the individual pilot, we want to deliver, but you know, in the many times I've had to call and say, hey, weather's not going to work, or I've had a maintenance issue, I've never got anything other than great, thank you, we'll go to plan B. It's always positive, never any disappointment on the line. It's really well handled. And then of course, cost. You know, I think Ricardo and I were talking a bit about this. We all have flying budgets and so forth. What a great way to use part of that. If you're aiming to fly a certain number of hours a year, budget a chunk of that for Angel Flight, and you know, how good is that? So I think that's what Joe's getting at there as well. So thank you, Joe. So right on the top of the hour. So I think we can stay on if people want to discuss or have
Happy to stay on. Yeah.
Yeah. James.
Welcome back, Jim.
Oh, hi, Sherry. How are you? Trevor, this is Jim Hessman over in Phoenix. And
Hey,
hi. I just wanted to share, I did my first command pilot last month, September.
outstanding. Great.
And well, what I found to get over that first hump, what helped me, and this is with a passenger who has done a number of these with Angel Flight West. And so I think the first mission, for those who have the anxiety level, and I think we've all gone through that, is hook up with somebody else who has flown with this person before. And if you can find somebody who is in the middle of a series of treatments, you know, maybe they go once a week to a certain city or something, or every couple of weeks. And if you get on one of those flights with an Angel Flight pilot, then you start to meet that person. And once you've met the person, now you have a relationship. So now you know who you're going to be flying. So if they're in a sequential situation where they've got a meeting every week at a certain city, get on one of those. Because now you know who the person is. They're not a stranger to you. You know what they're going through. It makes it a lot easier to say, okay, I'll take the next one. And you do, and it makes it really easy. And plus the fact you've got somebody who's experienced, and they know what this is like. Sometimes you get a rookie patient or passenger, and there might be some anxiety in their part as well. So this way, you've got somebody who probably knows more about this than you do, you know, as far as logistics and what it does, and they're very comfortable and make you very comfortable. So I found the perfect first flight for me as a command pilot with Angel Flight with Margot, and I look, and I've done 3 or 4 or 5 of them with her since then, and every time she's available, I'll try to do one with her. But it also makes you say, okay, now I know what my sweet spot is. This is the kind of flight you want to do. And once you've done that, it makes it a lot easier to do other flights beyond that. Just get past that first one. But that's a form that I found that worked for me. So
That's a really good suggestion, Jim. Yeah, and we have a lot of those passengers, right, that are sort of frequent flyers going for chemo or something like that, that are going every week or so. So yeah, no, that's so there's a definitely in your wing. You look out there, you'll definitely see those frequent flyers. So yeah, that's great. Thank you, and congrats on the first mission.
Thank you.
Trevor, Karina has a question too. She's in the chat. Karina, can
Oh,
you?
great.
And if you could unmute, there you go.
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead, Karina.
Hi, guys. Very nice to be here. And so I have a question. I'm in the Venice area, and I'm a commercial pilot. I actually work on call for air medical. I flew organs. I fly passengers. I fly the doctors. So I kind of understand what you guys doing. And I really would like to be volunteering in your organization, but unfortunately, I don't have a plane. And how can I be involved and be so what I understand by talking to one of your representative, I have to check if you have missions on the website and see if they need a co-pilot. But what's other way? I just want a scholarship, $5,000, and I want to use them in Long Beach just to rent a plane and just fly where, I just don't want to fly, just use those money. I really would like to be in service. So, and can you tell me a little bit more how I can help?
So we have many pilots who fly with rental planes. So, many of our members do own planes, but many don't. And rental planes are totally fine. There's some insurance requirements and so forth, but you'll see those when you sign up, and they're usually pretty standard, and there's usually no challenge there. So I would say, if you want to, you need to go through the normal process of signing up as a volunteer, but that's done all online. So you can do that through the website, or Troy or one of the other team members can guide you through that. But yeah, once you're signed up there, you can, that's great that you've got that scholarship. If you wanted to use some of those hours for Angel Flight missions, that'd be fantastic. We would very much welcome that. So
yeah, and I did apply everything what you said. I did apply online, and online I have my account, but every time when I go to so I would like to first fly with someone else.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, I understand what the people doing, and in the same time, I live 10 minutes away from Venice airport. So I can be in the last minute as well. And also from Whiteman Airport, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So
no, that's great. I'd probably, Troy is
Troy
Troy is a great resource. So you might connect with him about how you approach the specifics of it. But if you signed up and look for missions that work with your schedule, and there's obviously a little bit more complexity because you have to be able to rent the plane at that time as well. But assuming you can do that, most of our flights are not none of our flights are last minute. There's always, we know days or weeks in advance when the flight's going to occur. So that might help.
Okay. And Karina, I will reach out to you after and get you some contacts and try and get you up and going on.
Okay.
Mission assistant first, and then go from there.
Great. Thanks for the interest, Karina. Yeah. I think we've got a couple more, just the interest of time getting through. There's a couple of hands up. I see. Is it Jerry?
Gary. Yeah.
Welcome.
I just wanted to point out that sometimes the cancellation occurs at the last minute, and it's by the passenger.
Yes.
Yes.
The one mission that I have attempted to fly, which was several years ago, I got a call from the mother. Within 10 minutes of when I was going to turn off my phone and launch, canceling because the boy was not feeling well. The problem would have been if she had waited 10 minutes, she would have missed me, because I'm based at Olympia and she was flying out of Walla Walla. So I was going to have to go over to Walla Walla, pick them up, take them over to Hillsborough and drop them, and then go back home. If she had waited another 10 minutes, I would have flown over the wall for nothing. So there are other reasons that people will cancel, and I haven't heard back from her since. So I have no idea if the boy finally recovered or what happened there.
Yeah. I mean, look, there are a long list of reasons why missions do get cancelled, and that is one. I haven't had that happen that much, but it's happened for sure. And
Yeah.
we
Trevor, I
definitely-
had that same thing. I had a very similar thing where we were scheduled to go, and that morning, the cancellation happened that morning. It wasn't 10 minutes before, and it was because, you know, something came up. Somebody, her daughter was sick, and she was the one getting treatment, but she had to fly with her daughter, and then she didn't want to, you know, put her up to getting up to, you know, getting up, flying while she had a cold and things like that. And then we tried to reschedule, but it didn't work out. And it takes a lot of empathy, I think, you know, because, you know, we're excited to go flying, or, you know, we were going to do the expense or whatever that might be. And I just really had to put myself in her shoes, you know, because there's a lot going on, and just, just be very gracious. And then, you know, my plans were to go to work that day instead. So then I went to work. But that does happen,
Okay, we have two more questions, I think.
Yeah, Terrence, I see on there. Terrence.
Yeah, hi everyone, thanks.
Hi.
So I've done a whopping 2 missions so far. So I'm new to this.
Thank you.
I can definitely relate to all the comments that the other folks have made. Both were good trips, very smooth, rewarding experiences, and you definitely feel that pressure because you don't want to disappoint them, and you want everything to go well. So I have like maybe a couple suggestions and a question.
Yep.
So my biggest barrier is most of the missions are during weekdays, and like most of you, we have day jobs to be able to pay for all this.
Yep.
So I'm like, I think it was Ricardo or one of the other guys was saying he starts out searching the weekend missions. That's my situation as well. My request is, and I'm sure you guys try to do this, but the mission form that we get that lists like the time that they want to launch and the weights, on one of the two, there's a fairly decent discrepancy on both the timing and the weights. So like Ricardo, I've just made a decision that I'm going to give myself a buffer of 100 pounds to allow for that. I fly a Beechcraft Bonanza, and they have an aft CG issue that you got to pay attention to. So that's why I'm a little anal about it. And then my question is, after the mission, we do a post-mission report or form. And I haven't heard the word boo out of either. So I assume that's okay, or I just want to know, what do you guys do with that information, or if there's a way of getting some feedback back to us from your perspective if things went well, or should I assume if no news is good news? Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I'll let someone on the team comment, but yeah, I've assumed normally I'm the same, Terrence. It's no news is good news is what I assume, but
Yeah.
Terrence.
So Terrence, I guess my question is, one, by the way, if you ever find a big weight discrepancy, let us know for sure, because we'll figure that out and update that so that it doesn't happen to another pilot in the future. And we do vet, but people aren't always honest, or they don't really know. They tell us they know, and so yeah, please feel free to let us know, and we'll make sure we update that.
Yeah.
As far as your mission report, I will say that if you just file your mission report and you don't put any comments in the box that need any kind of response from us, you won't hear back from us. You know, we got your mission report completed. You will hear from us if you didn't complete it, and we'll say, hey, please file this. We're waiting to close out our month. If you put a comment in there, great flight, I had fun, you probably won't hear back. But if you put a comment in there, the passenger weighed more than I thought, and that was an issue, you should hear back from us. Now, no excuses here, but the last several weeks we had some issues, and the missions team was not getting those emails back to us, so we weren't seeing them all. One of our team members, David, did some catch up this week, and so hopefully we're caught up on those. So normally if there's a comment you make that requires our response, or not even that requires our response, that we feel we should be responding to you, we definitely will. So if you have a complaint or a concern about something that happened, you should hear back from us. Absolutely.
Great.
Well,
And
thank
you. Appreciate it.
Let me also answer a little bit about how to find time and what I've done. So yeah, there isn't that many weekend missions, and it has to do, I think, with the cost. You know, a lot of these patients are, you know, one of the reasons they need angel flight is because it's a financial burden for them to fly. And so staying somewhere overnight would be a financial burden. I mean, I can't imagine that someone would choose to fly in the morning, have chemo, and fly home for any other reason other than it's a financial burden to spend the night. But what I've done is, you know, I'm lucky that my company has actually what pays for me to do. I believe it's 16 hours. Yeah, that's right. 2 days, 16 hours of volunteer work, and I was able to apply that to my angel flights. So they basically paid for 2 full days off for me to go do angel flights, and I was able to take that. So now once I use that up, then I've used a few half days, and that's why another reason why I like more of a local shorter flight, because I can do that in a half day and still make it to work for half a day, and then take a half day off from work. And once in a while, I will take a full day off from work, and I make that work, you know, with my family and everything else. But that's you know, that's why it's a giving thing, right? And it's where we sacrifice some part of our own for someone else's benefit. So that's what I've been able to find in order to make the missions work. And if that's something that you can do, then yeah, that's a great benefit to someone.
Great. And then Alan Ostroff, you have a question.
Yeah, I had a couple of simple questions, really. Hi, Trevor.
Hey, Alan. Good to see you.
I was curious, do patients mind listening to ATC? Do most patients travel with a friend or a family member? And do most flights need mission assistance?
Yeah, I can take a first. So the ATC, I don't know, there's probably a lot of experiences on here. I actually asked because I like probably like most of us, there's a button I can press that can mute. And so I just ask, and the experienced ones know immediately whether they want it or not. Some don't, some do. More do, in my experience. So, but I had the last one I did, Dallas, who was featured just previously. She normally likes it, but she was just wiped after surgery. So she's like, oh, I'm just going to sleep. So I just kept it quiet. So it depends.
Okay.
And then, sorry, that was the first question.
Do most patients travel with a friend or a family member?
Yeah. Ricardo, what's your experience been?
I've found both kinds of missions. I don't think that I don't really have a good sense whether most fly with a companion or not, though there's lots of missions with 2 people on board, right? So can't really say with most or not, but I found missions both ways. I think, you know, if with my airplane and the capabilities of my airplane, if I want to take an assistant, then I need to find a mission that only has 1 passenger, because then it works with my airplane. But you'll find both. You'll find both.
I don't have numbers in front of me, but more missions do have 2 people than probably are individuals. And again, I don't have the exact numbers there, but oftentimes they're flying with a companion.
Yeah,
especially if you want to fly missions with small kids, you're always going to find like even 2 companions with small kids. So those are like require even more capable airplanes, like someone that can carry 500 or 600 pounds. I mean, that's a more capable airplane than mine. And there are those kinds of missions, you know, for children, going to children's hospital and things like that.
Okay. Yeah. And what about mission assistants? Are they required or are they optional?
No, and I'll just, I mean, this might be an overly blanket statement, but technically my opinion is none of our missions actually require a mission assistant because these are non-emergent ambulatory patients. It's very nice. I mean, I always enjoy having a mission assistant, particularly another pilot who can sort of share some of the responsibilities. That's great. But no, I think, Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, but every mission we fill can be flown by a single pilot. And that's sort of
the only
one that I know one would be we do fly some camp missions. So there are some camp missions. If you are flying an individual unaccompanied minor, you need to have a mission assistant. If you're flying 2 unaccompanied minors, you do not need a mission assistant. The camp organization calls it three's company. So there always needs to be 3 people involved. So 2 kids, you don't have to have a mission assistant. 1 kid, you do.
Understood. Okay.
That's the only time where you're required. And then
Sounds
there
good.
have been a few, very few limited cases. As many of you know, we do some DV relocations, and we have some other people that might fly for some mental health treatment. And in particular, if it's a woman that has had some kind of abuse or something and is uncomfortable alone with a male, then we might ask for a mission assistant. But those are really, that's really rare and few between. Otherwise, it's just camp.
And that'll be clear on the mission request too, when that applies.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Were there any, Margie? Margie's.
Good afternoon. And so we are new to this, my husband and I, and we are in a unique situation. We're in Montana. We are both pilots. And my husband acts as the mission, the PIC. He's IFR rated. It's been very beneficial for us. We're in Montana. Everything is far here. So what we've been doing is that I will fly from home to our pickup, and then he flies as PIC with the patient and to drop off, and then I fly home. We've also found that somebody had said, hour and a half is a good leg. We have a Piper Dakota, so it's bigger than an Archer, a little higher performance, but they're still cramped. And you get over hour and a half, 2 hours, it's hard on everybody. So these shorter, I'm going to call them shorter flights. We don't have a laboratory either. If you can work that into the planning, and then, like I said, we're unique in that we're both pilots, but being able to trade off like that really makes it a much easier day. We also then, the other person does the radios, so you can focus on flying. You're going into maybe not familiar airports, and if you can just focus on flying and the other person does the radios, again, having a patient with you takes a lot of stress out. So that's really worked for us. I know we're unusual, but I'm going to say mission assistants can be pretty critical in many ways.
Yeah, no, that's great. That is an unusual situation, but sounds like a really nice situation. So yeah, that's great. Do you ever fly fly people out to Spokane for legs to Seattle? Or we'll probably trade missions sometimes, because I often do those flights from Spokane.
Yeah, the patient that we've been working with goes to Denver, and thank goodness that we've been our second leg pilot flies out of Denver. That's his home base. So we have fallen into a perfect situation that it works out great for us. And so I know it is unusual.
That's great. Good for you. Jim, is that in your hand? Right?
I just wanted one other quick tip, I guess, is that if you're in a major metro area and you have more than one airport, and if the listing shows that the patient would like to leave from a certain airport or come into a certain airport, some of that I think is negotiable. I mean, if you don't really want to fly your plane from point A 20 or 30 miles to some other place to pick them up, if it's easier for you, you can always just contact them or contact the team there at Angel Flight and just ask them, is it possible for them to come to this airport, to your home base, rather than you having to fly to pick them up? And what I found so far is they're usually more than willing to do that. So don't block out a potential opportunity just because it may not be your home airport. There could be some wiggle room, if you will, to be able to make it easier for both parties. So.
Yep. I'm in the same situation, Jim, and I've found it's 90% of the time it's no hassle to the passenger to just go to an airport 5 or 10 minutes away. So
yeah.
Trevor, you're really close to Boeing Field, and it also happens a different way. Where this happened to me already. In the morning of the flight, I called the passenger to make sure they called me and they said, I don't have a ride because they something the ride they hadn't been set up for a ground for them to get to the airport. And so we quickly figured out that her hotel was on my way to my airfield. So we'll quickly fix that. And I just said, I'll pick you up and we'll just leave from my home airfield, and it's going to save me a bunch of time having to fly to pick you up where we're going to go. So it can happen in a few different ways, and let Angel Flight know that we're changing the plan, and then if we flew out of Harvey instead of flying out of Boeing. So it can happen a few different ways, and if it makes it easy for you to do the mission and it works for the patient, then win-win.
Yeah, and by the way, I happened to notice when Troy was reading off the Earth Angels, there were several top Earth Angels there in wings who are actually command pilots and who do that very thing that Ricardo was just talking about. Dennis Phelan in Arizona oftentimes picks up his passengers just because he likes doing that piece of it, and it makes it more convenient for him. So that is always a possibility. And if you do that, let us know and we'll add you to the Earth Angel leg, so you'll get credit for both flying it and driving it.
Yep. I see Jason's got his hand up. Jason Haddock.
Yeah, quick question. So I'm based just outside of Denver on the Front Range. When I see missions, can I assume that are in or out of Denver, can I assume that they do not need to be pressurized cabins and they have been vetted that they can go on supplemental oxygen, or is that done downstream?
No, every passenger, every patient, so medical patient, we have a medical release signed by one of a medical professional, a nurse practitioner, a PA, or an MD, that says that they are medically stable, can fly in a non-pressurized aircraft, and it also has some other language about that they won't impact the safety of the flight, so they don't have any conditions that might impact the safety of the flight, mental health conditions like somebody who has suicidal ideation or somebody with seizure condition. So anybody that medical release is signed in advance. So
Very
that's
good.
sort of
That's
taken
helpful.
care of.
And for people who have done that, do you normally get them their own, like a new cannula or mask when they come, or how do folks do that in practice?
I think most pilots take care of that on their own, handle that through their own if they're going to be going at an altitude where they need to use the oxygen. So
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody could bring that on their own, but if you want that to happen, please let us know and we can look into that. You can give, where are you in Colorado? Yeah, give Troy a call or send him an email and he can help you with that issue and answer that question for you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I see Margie.
My Cherokee doesn't get that high, so I don't have that problem.
We are running on, it's 1:26 actually. Thank you guys for all hanging in there. You had a lot of people hanging in tight. We have Margie, it looks like you might have one more question, or is your hand still up?
The patient that we've been flying is a double lung transplant, and we have offered him oxygen, but he brings his own oxygen concentrator, so has always refused it. I know we've our last flight with him, it was a brutally hot, and we went up to 10.5 just to get cooler and get a little smoother. It was in the middle of the afternoon, and he always brings his own oxygen, so that has not been an issue for either. We're not pressurized, of course, and but we do have a dedicated cannula for passengers that we always sanitize between times. So that's kind of how we have handled that. We do the same thing with the foam that goes over the headset mic. We sanitize those between each.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
some of our
Thank you. I
passengers
appreciate
do
that.
travel with their own oxygen. So, and most of them today, back in the old days, it used to be those big metal e-tanks that they dragged along with the little rolling thing. Most of those are gone now, and most of the passengers who travel with oxygen. It's done with a little portable oxygen O2 concentrator that runs on a battery.
Okay. Any other questions? I think this timing worked out just perfect, Sherry. Anything else?
Yeah, thank you everybody for sticking around. Appreciate it. There's a couple of missions team at angelflightwest.org. If you have a mission specific email, Troy's email is in there. It's troyt@angelflightwest.org. Let's see, Jeff, I will get that message passed on to Gary Davis for you. Thank you all so much. Trevor and Ricardo, thank you very much for all your insight and help today. We really appreciate it. If you two could stick around with staff, that would be great.
Will do. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good to
Bye,
see you.
everybody.
Thank you.